I wasn't even supposed to be at that coffee shop. It was one of those strange detours life throws at you. I had a client meeting canceled last minute, and I figured I'd stop somewhere quiet, K*LL some time, maybe get some work done. Julia had mentioned the place a few times before, said their almond croissants were life-changing. I figured, why not? I grabbed a corner table, near the window, popped open my laptop, and ordered a cappuccino. I wasn't looking for anything. My head was in emails, half-focused. Just noise around me. Then I heard the name Julia, and it was like a needle dropped in my brain. My ears tuned in without permission. The voice came from two women sitting diagonally behind me. I recognized one of them instantly, Tasha. I'd met her once, years ago, when Julia and I had just started dating. Back then, she and Julia were close, the kind of close where they posted selfies with hashtags like #Ridiorty. That didn't last. Something had happened between them, I never knew what. Julia brushed it off as old drama, and I never pushed. The other woman looked vaguely familiar. I couldn't place her exactly, but I was sure she'd been in a few of Julia's old pictures, maybe from her first marriage. Brandon's time. I tried not to listen. Really, I did. But once you hear your wife's name in a stranger's conversation, you don't just tune out. You freeze. You pretend you're still working, still scrolling, but now you're locked in, pretending you didn't just hear the sentence that came next. I still can't believe she got away with it, Tasha said. She cheated on Brandon and played the victim, like she always does. My heart thudded. Hard. I blinked, looked down at my screen like it could protect me. The other woman snorted. Please. She was good at it. Always has been. The tears, the you don't understand me routine. She had him wrapped around her finger. Tasha leaned forward, her voice a little lower but still audible. You remember that guy she used to see? The one she used to sneak out to meet while Brandon was at those late shifts? What was his name? Doesn't matter, the other woman replied. Julia's always been like that. Moves on before the body's cold. They laughed. It was a bitter kind of laugh. Not cruel, but tired. Like women who had carried a truth too long without anyone believing them. I sat there, frozen, trying to look normal, calm, trying to convince myself I had misheard. Julia had told me years ago, when we were still in that everything's amazing phase, that people loved to stir things up about her past. Bitter women, she said. They hate seeing you happy. She mentioned Brandon once or twice, but always framed it like he was the one who messed up. She'd said he was emotionally cold, always working, made her feel like she was just furniture. And yeah, I bought it. I didn't know him and I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. It's strange how something can sit dormant in your memory for years, then suddenly come roaring back to life. That conversation, it cracked something. Not fully, not yet, but enough to shake me. I walked out of that cafe 20 minutes later with my cappuccino barely touched. My laptop still open in my bag. Outside, it was overcast. I just stood there on the sidewalk, coffee in hand, staring into the gray, not sure what to do with what I'd heard. On one hand, it was nothing. Gossip. Old friends talking trash. Julia had warned me about people like them. On the other hand, it was too specific. Too casual. They weren't trying to convince anyone. They were just talking. Like it was something everyone knew but never said out loud. That night, when I got home, Julia was in the kitchen cooking. She looked up, smiled, kissed me like always. But suddenly, I was watching everything differently. Her movements, her tone, the way her phone buzzed on the counter and she turned it face down with just a flick of her wrist. I told myself I was overthinking. Paranoia was a dangerous game and I didn't want to play it. But from that day on, I started noticing little things. The way she laughed with strangers just a bit too long. The way she complimented men she barely knew. Coworkers, delivery guys, even my friends. There was a flirtatiousness to it. A switch she turned on and off like muscle memory. One night we were at a friend's birthday dinner. Julia was talking to this guy at the end of the table. He worked in finance, I think, and the two of them were deep in conversation. She leaned in close when she laughed, touched his arm when she made a joke. It wasn't overt, but it was *mate. And when she caught me watching, she didn't look guilty. She just smiled at me like nothing was wrong. That night, I laid in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, wondering why I suddenly felt like I didn't know who I was sleeping next to. Nothing had happened. Not that I could prove. But that little seed from the coffee shop, it had taken root. It started to bloom into something darker. I wanted to ask her about Brandon again, about what those women had said. But what would I even say? Hey babe, I was spying on your old friend's conversation and they said you're a liar. Thoughts? No, that wouldn't go well. So I said nothing. But I watched. And that's how it started, the slow, invisible unraveling of the trust one thought we had. After that day at the coffee shop, I couldn't see Julia the same way. I tried to shake it off, convince myself I was just being paranoid, reading too much into an old conversation between two bitter ex-friends. But the damage had been done. Something inside me had cracked. First, it was small, a kind of quietness between us, like a song we both used to know by heart that now played just slightly out of tune. I told myself I was imagining it, but I started to notice things I hadn't before. Or maybe I had noticed them and just chosen not to care. Julia had always been social, but now she seemed distant. She used to loop me into everything, coworker drama, what happened on her lunch break, random gossip from her yoga class. Lately, it was all vague. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd shrug. Just work. Then go back to scrolling her phone. And then there was the party. It started off innocent enough. She mentioned it over dinner one night. Said a coworker was throwing a small get-together downtown. Nothing major, just drinks and networking. She was oddly casual about it. Almost rehearsed. I think I'm gonna go, she said between bites of salmon. I've been kind of in a rut lately. Might be nice to get out. Clear my head. I looked up. You want me to come? She smiled tight, polite. Oh, it's just work people. You'd be bored out of your mind. I didn't argue, but something about the way she said it rubbed me the wrong way. That was the first night she came home late. I told myself not to overthink it. People lose track of time. It happens. But when she walked through the door just after midnight, her hair a little messier than usual, her lipstick slightly smudged, I felt something unfamiliar sink into my gut. She acted like nothing was wrong, laughed, kissed me on the cheek, said they had karaoke at the end and she stayed longer than planned. The next morning I asked how the party was. She paused, just for a beat, then gave me a rushed, surface-level summary, names I didn't recognize, jokes I didn't get. I listened, nodded, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was giving me a version of the night that had been edited in real time. After that, she started going out more. Once a week turned into twice. Then she'd say she had meetings that ran late. Group dinners. Birthday drinks. Always some excuse. I finally said something. Not angrily, not accusing, just a quiet, careful question one night while we were watching TV. Hey, you've been going out a lot lately. She didn't look away from the screen. Yeah, so? I'm just saying. It's a change. That's all. Julia muted the TV, turned to me. Her expression was hard to read. Somewhere between defensiveness and exhaustion. I need a life outside this house, you know? She said. I never said you didn't. Then what are you saying? She snapped. That I'm doing something wrong because I have friends? That I should just sit at home every night like some Stepford wife? I didn't answer right away. I was trying not to say the wrong thing. No, I said finally. I'm saying I miss spending time with you. She scoffed. We're together every night. Physically, yeah. But it doesn't feel like you're here anymore. That set her off. She stood up, arms crossed, pacing like she was trying to walk off the conversation. I can't live like this, always feeling watched. You're always looking at me like I'm doing something wrong. I'm not watching you, I said, trying to stay calm. I'm trying to talk to you. There's a difference. She turned on me then, her voice sharper. You're paranoid. You're reading into everything. You want to control me, and I won't let you. That last sentence stayed with me. I won't let you. Like I was some force she had to fight off. After that, I stopped pushing. There's a moment in every argument where you realize continuing the conversation won't fix anything. It'll just dig the hole deeper. That was my moment. I nodded, got up, and went to bed. She stayed downstairs. I don't know for how long. From that night forward, things were different. Colder. Quieter. Like we were living in parallel, polite coexistence. The only time she smiled at me was when other people were watching. She still kissed me goodbye in the mornings. Still brought me coffee when I was working late. But it felt like obligation, not affection. I caught her texting one night in the bathroom. The light from her phone glowed under the door, and I could hear the tapping. Quick, rhythmic. When I came in after, the phone was gone, nowhere in sight. She used to leave it face up on the nightstand. Now it was always screened down on silent. I started wondering who she was texting, who she was meeting at those work parties, and more importantly, why she always looked just a little too perfect when she left. I never used to doubt her. Not once. But now doubt was the air I breathed. And the worst part? She didn't seem to care. Not really. Maybe she thought I'd just keep quiet. Or maybe she didn't even notice how far we were drifting apart. But I noticed. And I was done pretending like I didn't. It happened on a Thursday night. Late. Too late for her to not be answering her phone. Julia had said she was grabbing drinks with coworkers after a team project wrap-up. Some new manager's idea, apparently. The kind of work celebration where people who don't actually like each other pretend they're a family for a couple hours. I didn't love it, but I didn't protest. By that point, I was too tired of the arguments that came with questioning her every night out. But when the clock hit 10:45 and I still hadn't heard a word from her, something inside me snapped. I texted, "Everything okay?" No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. I told myself it was nothing. Her phone probably died. Or she left it in her bag. Or the music was too loud. Logical stuff. Stuff I used to believe. But logic wasn't cutting it anymore. That's when I opened the app. It was a tracking app I'd installed months ago during that whole safety talk we had. Back when things were still okay. She shut it down immediately. Said it was invasive, said I didn't trust her. I told her it was for emergencies. She said if I needed to track her, maybe I wasn't ready for marriage. I dropped it. But later, quietly, I'd set it up anyway, just in case. I felt disgusting doing it. Guilty. Like I'd crossed a line. But some part of me must have known I'd need it eventually. And that night, I did. I opened the app, held my breath, and waited for the location to load. It didn't say downtown. It didn't say Tap House or Mason Bar or any of the places she said she was heading to. It said Sunset Pines Motel. I stared at the screen for a solid minute, thinking maybe it was a glitch. Maybe she was driving past it. Maybe she took a wrong turn. But the dot wasn't moving. She was there. And she'd been there for over half an hour. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. The next few minutes are still a blur in my memory. I remember grabbing my keys. I remember my hands shaking as I drove. I remember the sound of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Louder than the radio. Louder than anything. When I pulled into the motel parking lot, the first thing I saw was her car. I parked a few spots over, sat in my car, and stared at it. Same parking decal on the mirror. Same scratches on the back bumper. No doubt it was hers. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I didn't want to go inside. I didn't want to know. But I had to. The front desk guy looked young. Maybe 25, scruffy beard, earbuds in. He barely looked up when I walked in. "Can I help you?" I hesitated. Then I just said it. "My wife is here. She told me she was somewhere else. I'm pretty sure she's cheating on me right now, in one of these rooms." His eyes met mine for the first time. He didn't speak right away. Just looked at me like he was trying to decide something. "I know you probably can't give me a room number," I said, voice cracking. "But please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to see for myself." He sighed, pulled out his phone, and tapped the screen a few times. Then he nodded toward the hallway. "Room 212. Upstairs. Right side." I stared at him, stunned. "Seriously?" He shrugged. "I've been there, man. Found my girl with my best friend once. Thought I was crazy too. You deserve to know." I couldn't even thank him. I just turned and walked. Each step up those stairs felt like I was marching toward something I couldn't come back from. A cliff edge. No going backward. I stopped in front of 212. Voices inside. A man's voice. Her laugh. Faint but unmistakable. I raised my hand. Knocked. The door opened almost instantly. She stood there, barefoot, wearing an oversized shirt that didn't belong to her. Her hair was down. Her makeup was smudged. She looked like she had expected someone. But not me. And yet, somehow, she didn't look surprised either. Behind her, a man, mid-30s, clean-shaven, shirtless, stood frozen in place. His eyes darted between me and Julia like he was waiting to get punched. She opened her mouth to speak. Wait! But I didn't want her words. I didn't need the excuses. I saw everything I needed to see in a single second. The motel, the shirt, the man, the look on her face. My whole world came crashing down, quietly, without fanfare. I just stared at her, heart pounding. My voice was flat when I spoke. I guess the party ended early. She didn't say anything. Not right away. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Finally, she stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind her. Like shielding him from me would change what had already happened. Please, she whispered. Let me explain. I shook my head slowly. Explain what? I didn't mean for this to happen, she said, voice cracking. It got out of control. I didn't plan it. I swear. A hollow laugh escaped my lips. But you made the reservation, drove here, took your ring off. That all just happened. Tears welled up in her eyes. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't. I could barely breathe. My chest felt like it was in a vice. I looked at her. This woman I had built a life with, and all I could think was, this is who you really are. She kept whispering, I'm sorry, but it didn't mean anything. Not now. Not after this. I turned and walked away. Not because I wanted to, because if I stayed, I'd say things I could never take back. And because deep down I already knew, this was the beginning of the end. I don't remember the walk back to my car. I must have looked like a ghost, stumbling across the parking lot, eyes glazed, hands trembling. I could still feel her voice chasing me down the motel corridor, pleading, trying to form words that would somehow erase what I'd just seen. But there were no words for that. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, engine off, key in the ignition. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared through the windshield, watching the neon motel sign flicker, like the universe was mocking me in Morse code. She came out after a few minutes, still wearing that oversized shirt, still barefoot. Her arms were wrapped tight around herself like the cold had just realized she was real. She stepped slowly toward the car, like she was approaching a wounded animal. I rolled down the window a couple inches, more reflex than anything else. Please, she said, her voice hoarse. Please don't leave like this. I didn't respond. She moved closer, lowered herself so she was eye level with me through the glass. I know how this looks, she started. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. But it's not what you think. That sentence made me flinch. I actually winced. Julia, I said quietly, finally looking at her. Don't insult me. Don't make it worse. She swallowed hard. Her eyes were red now, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. I didn't come here to... She paused, shook her head. I didn't plan for this to happen. We were just... I cut her off. You were just what? Having drinks? Playing board games? Come on. Her lip quivered. I was lonely. I looked away, jaw tightening. Do you know how many nights I stayed up wondering what I did wrong? I asked. Do you know how many times I convinced myself I was the one ruining this marriage? That maybe I was too cold, too distracted, too tired. Her face crumpled. She reached for my arm again. Please don't do this. We can fix it. We can go to therapy. I'll block his number. I'll quit my job. I'll do whatever you need. Just don't give up on us. Her desperation was real. I could feel it vibrating off her. But I couldn't tell if she was sorry for cheating, or just sorry she got caught. I believed in us, I said, voice low. I really did. And I still do, she whispered. I made a mistake. But it doesn't have to be the end. Please. I turned back to her then, looked her full in the face. Julia, you made your choice the second you walked into that motel room. She blinked, tears falling freely now. I know I did. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. You don't cheat on people you love, I said. Not like this. Not with lies stacked that high. Her mouth opened, but I held up a hand. No more. I don't want to hear it. Silence fell between us. Just the faint hum of traffic in the distance, the buzz of the motel sign overhead, and the sound of her breathing, shallow and broken. Finally, I spoke again. My voice was calm, but something inside me had gone completely still. I'm going home, I said. I need you to stay somewhere else tonight. Don't follow me. Don't text me. Don't call. She stood there like I'd slapped her. The wind picked up, tugging at the hem of that borrowed shirt. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, I said. Figure it out. You figured out how to get here. Her shoulders sagged. I could see her start to crumple in on herself, hands trembling, mouth opening and closing like she didn't know which version of herself to be. I rolled the window back up, started the engine. She stepped back automatically, eyes still locked on mine. I drove away without looking in the rearview. I didn't want to see her silhouette shrinking in the distance. I didn't want to see anything, just the road ahead. Empty, dark, and mine alone. The house was silent when I got back. I parked in the driveway and just sat there for a while, engine humming low. The porch light was still on, like it always was when she got home after me. Habit. A shared ritual. One of those small, automatic kindnesses that used to mean something. But tonight, it just felt artificial. Like the house hadn't gotten the message that everything had changed. IK** led the engine, stepped out, and stood in the dark for a minute. The night air was cold, but I didn't feel it. I think I was still in shock, floating outside myself, watching it all happen from somewhere far away. Inside, everything looked exactly the same. Her jacket still hung on the hook by the door. Her keys still sat in the dish on the entry table. A glass of half-finished wine was sitting on the counter from the night before, red and sour under the kitchen light. It was all still her life, her mess, her rhythm, but she wasn't here, and she wasn't coming back. At least not tonight. I walked through the house slowly, turning off lights like I was closing up a place that didn't belong to me anymore. My feet dragged. Every step felt heavier than the last. In the living room, I stood in front of the photo shelf. Our wedding picture was front and center. I stared at it the way we looked, happy, glowing, like people who thought they'd figured out what forever meant. She was wearing her grandmother's earrings, the ones she insisted on even though the clasp was broken. I remembered standing beside her that day, holding her hand as she read her vows with a voice that shook. I picked the frame up and just stared at it. Part of me wanted to smash it against the wall. Another part of me couldn't let go of it. Instead, I turned it face down. That felt crueler, somehow. I went upstairs and pulled out the suitcase we used to take on weekend trips. Those spontaneous little getaways we used to do when things were good. When we didn't need a reason to be close. When we still liked each other for no other reason than we just did. I started packing. Not everything. Just what I needed. A couple pairs of jeans. T-shirts. Socks. My toothbrush. Deodorant. My passport, even though I had no plans to go anywhere. It felt important, like maybe I needed to keep it close just in case I woke up tomorrow and decided to disappear. Every item I packed made me angrier. Not at her. At myself. Because I knew. I knew something was wrong. And instead of facing it, I played dumb. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I told myself trust was the price of love. But what I didn't realize was that I wasn't trusting her. I was just avoiding the truth. When I zipped the suitcase shut, it sounded louder than I expected. Final. I left it by the bedroom door and walked downstairs one last time. The house felt different now, bigger somehow. Hollow. Like it was holding its breath. That's when I heard the knock. Soft. Almost scared. I froze. Another knock. Then her voice, muffled through the door. Please, can we talk? I stayed where I was, eyes locked on the door but unmoving. Mark, she said again. Please. Just 5 minutes. I walked over slowly, pulled the door open. She stood there with her hands stuffed into the sleeves of her hoodie, face puffy and streaked with dried mascara. Her eyes were red. Her voice was quiet. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't say anything, just stood there in the doorway, blocking her path. She looked up at me. Can I come in? No, I said. Not tonight. Her face fell. She nodded like she expected it, but it still hurt to hear. I don't know what to do, she whispered. You figure it out, I said. You've been doing that just fine without me. She started to cry again, a soft, hiccuping sound that used to break my heart. But now all I felt was exhaustion. Where do we go from here? She asked. I don't know where you go, I said. But I'm leaving. Tonight. She stared at me, like the words hadn't landed yet. I looked away. Don't try to reach me. I need space. You owe me that much. She nodded, silent. Her eyes begged, but her mouth stayed closed. I didn't hug her, didn't say goodbye. I just closed the door, slowly, until all I could see was the wood grain in front of me. Then I turned the lock, walked upstairs, grabbed my bag, and left. No plan, no destination, just me, my car, and whatever came next. I didn't go far, just the next town over. Found a cheap motel off the highway. Blank beige walls, a humming mini fridge, and the kind of silence that makes you feel like you're underwater. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. I opened the gallery. Photos of us, vacations, anniversaries, birthdays. We looked happy. But now all I could see was how much I wanted to believe we were. Every smile looked rehearsed. Every hug, hollow. The truth had always been in the background, I just never wanted to zoom in. I didn't sleep much. Just laid there watching headlights pass through the blinds. My phone stayed silent. No missed calls. No messages. I wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. Around 7 a.m., I called Mark, an old friend I hadn't talked to in a while. He picked up on the second ring. Talk to me, he said, no questions, no judgment. I told him everything. His quiet support felt like a lifeline. It hurts now, he said. But trust me, this is the start of something better. We met later that evening at a quiet bar we used to haunt in our 20s. I was a shell, nursing a beer, but talking helped. Mark didn't sugarcoat anything. You've been loyal to someone who wasn't, he said. You gave more than you got. Now it's your turn to live. That hit hard. Not because it was harsh, but because it was true. For the first time in weeks, I let myself imagine a life not built around